Today we'll be looking at another cue that I've just completed for the movie The Hitch. I've taken the melody from the last cue that we looked at, and I've expanded on that melody and then harmonized it in a very interesting way. So let's jump right in and take a look at that. The melody we'll be working with today comes from our first cue, and it was played in the cello section, a section consisting of 6 players. It's marked rubato, so the time is very free-flowing. Most of it is in a time signature of 4/4, but there are a few bars here, this 3/4 bar and this 5/4 bar, just to give it a little bit of interest and an off feeling, which works with this first cue. It's all played over a G pedal. Let's just listen to these 2 melody fragments here. I'll play this first one for you. And then it continues on with this second fragment. So we're going to take that now and transform it into a 3/4 waltz feel. The first step was to take the melody that we just heard and conform it to 3/4. So these first 6 bars are that melody conformed to 3/4, and then 2 more bars added on to complete an 8-bar phrase. The second 8 bars are new material, but they're based very much on the first 8 bars, and they finish off this 16-bar phrase. Let's hear just a solo cello playing this melody. The transformation into 3/4 really works for the feeling I'm after. It has a sort of mournful feeling, but also a little bit creepy, a little bit off. So I'm really liking the 3/4 sound of this. The next thing that I had to figure out was how I was going to harmonize this. I mean, this melody is very chromatic, and if I were to take the notes that are in this melody and just kind of look at them to see if they fit any kind of mode or scale, we've got a G, an A flat, a B, a C sharp, a D, an E flat, and an E. So, that doesn't fit any scale that I can think of. But there's a great resource to check to see if there are any pieces in the literature written in this mode or scale, whatever this happens to be. And it's called allthescales.org. It's a great website. Let's just look at this and type in the scale and see what we come up with. Here we are on the homepage of allthescales.org, and you can see that they list 1,490 unique modes or scales. These are Western equal tempered scales with between 3 and 12 notes. So there's no way you could know all the names of all of those scales, and they've generated names for each one of these scales. It's a great resource to look up your scale and see if it exists anywhere in the literature. So let's go to the search function here, and we can see we've got this chromatic scale where we enter our scale and see if it aligns with any other scales, what the name of it might be. I'm going to have to go ahead and transpose our scale to start on a C to be able to enter it here. So now we have a C here. We can see that, yes, we have to have a C as our first note. We have a C sharp, so I'm going to say yes, we have a C sharp. We don't have a D, so I'm going to say no on the D. No D sharp. We do have an E. We have no F, but we do have an F sharp. We have a G sharp, and an A. Now I also added into our original scale starting on G and F natural. So that would be an A sharp here. So I'm going to add that in, and then I'm going to say no to this final note. Okay, now we can hit the search button and see what the name of this combination of notes might be. It's an octatonic scale now, so let's see what we get. So you'll see that we did get a scale that matches, but it doesn't match what we have here. Why is that? Because what we have here is a mode of this scale that we see. So if we start on the 7th degree, it will match. I'm just going to go ahead and transpose these notes down a half step, and then we'll see that, oh yes, it does line up. We have a B, then a C, then a E flat, which is enharmonically a D sharp, an F, a G flat, which is enharmonically this F sharp, a G, and then an A flat, which is enharmonically this G sharp. So now we know that this scale is the Lolyllic scale. This is very small here. I'll put it up on the screen so you can see the name of it. So we can go on the web and search to see if there are any pieces of music that we can find that use this scale. I couldn't find any for this particular scale. In the past, I found pieces that use scales that are unusual, say in Indian classical music as a raga, but for this particular scale, I couldn't find anything, so we're using something fairly unique. But this is a great resource. Okay, let's go back and see how I harmonized it using this Lolyllic scale. All right, so we have our Lolyllic scale, and we're going to use this scale to harmonize our melody. I want to try to harmonize as many notes with a unique chord as I can, since in the original use of this melody, we played it all over a single pedal, the G pedal. Here I want more harmonic movement. My other strategy for harmonizing this melody with this unique scale is to have each one of the melody notes be a chord tone, up to the 7th, let's say. So either the root, 3rd, 5th, or 7th of the chord. There are a few spots where I extended that up to the 9th of the chord, but in general, I want to keep it as one of the basic chord tones. So for this first E flat, I have a lot of choices, but I definitely want to have a G in the bass to make it clear that G is home at this point. So if I were to build a chord in thirds on this G, I could build it like this: a G, a B, a D sharp, or this E flat. And that would be a G augmented chord. And that's what I've used here, a G augmented chord. It sounds like this. For this second melody note, I have a D, and that opens up many possibilities. If it were the root of the chord, then I could build it from here. I could have a D, an F, and an A flat, and that would sound like this: a D diminished chord. Or if this D were the 3rd of the chord, I could have a B, a D, an F, and even an A flat. And that would be a B diminished 7 chord. If this D were the 5th of the chord, I could have either a G major chord or even a G7. Or a G7 with tensions on it. This would be a G7 flat 9 sharp 11. If this D were the 7th of the chord, as I've made it here, this could outline an E7 chord. So that's the basic strategy I've used to harmonize this melody, along with my ear, hearing how these chords relate to each other. Now that I have this E7, I go to this E flat augmented chord. And again, all of these notes came from our scale, building chords in thirds: E flat, G, and B. And for this C sharp, I've made it the seventh of the chord. So this is a D diminished major 7 sound. Then for the next 2 bars, I repeat that exactly. Let's take a listen to that, these first 4 measures orchestrated into our 6 cellos. Hearing the 6 cellos play this melody in its harmonization has really brought this to life. I've wandered into a unique world that I've never been in before with the orchestration and with this harmony. So it's forced me to really listen and use my ears. Let's look at a couple more of these voicings and then we'll listen to the whole thing. Right here we have this voicing, and I really like this sound. It's an F diminished major 7. I love that voicing. Another interesting thing happened as I came to the end of the piece. So as I came to a close, we originally had that G augmented sound, this sound. And I thought, okay, well, I could sit there on the last chord. But if you'll notice, the title of this is What Are You? Our heroine from the first video about this movie, The Hitch, when she gets in the truck, at some point she asks the driver, "What are you?" And I thought, this piece kind of is that. What are you? What is this piece? I thought, okay, well, instead of ending on that G augmented sound, what if I continued to use our scale, our Lolyllic scale, and instead ended on this, A flat minor. So I go from that G augmented to the A flat minor. So that's kind of inferring that this G Lolyllic scale was actually the 7th mode of the Aeronilic scale, starting on A flat. And I know that this is a little confusing. Believe me, it's a little confusing to me too. But the idea is that this G, the G pedal that I've pushed from the very beginning of the score, and G throughout the score is home bass. And now at the very end, I'm saying, oh, maybe that G isn't home bass. Maybe it's actually A flat, this A flat minor chord. And I'm letting you in on something. What are you? Oh, I'm not actually this G sound that you thought. I'm actually this A flat minor. And I know that's pretty esoteric, but it makes sense to me in this score. Okay, I hope you'll try some of these more interesting and unique scales, and they open up a sound world that you might not have normally tried. I mean, I wouldn't have written this kind of chord progression had I not tried to write it with this scale. Let's take a listen now to the Hitch 1M3, What Are You? And I'll see you all next time.